Hi, this is Deborah from Tin Teddy, and today, as the beginning of my Shriek Week promotion, I'm going to start by showing you a tutorial to make a witch-related tag, and I'm going to use the Julie Nutting stamp called Little Girl from Prima. This is one of my very favourite stamps, very cute. So, just get the little girl out. These are lovely big rubber stamps and very deeply etched. I'm going to use my Friskers stamp press to stamp her. Let's place her on there. And I'm going to stamp her up with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. This is my favourite ink for any time I'm going to be colouring with alcohol markers. So we'll just dab her all over. Probably should re-ink my pad. I don't think it's as juicy as it could be. And I'm going to stamp her onto a piece of Nina card. I'm just going to, before I stamp her, I'm going to pop a piece of cardboard underneath. I don't like to stamp directly onto the hard surface. So I'm stamping my little girl. I'll just put her over here. Just there, I think. I'm just going to push down on the stamp press and I'll just hold it for a few moments. Oh, broken my nail. Good start to a video. There we go. Just hold it for a second to make sure the ink transfers. And we have the little girl. I always use Nina Solar White card when I'm colouring with alcohol markers because it blends so beautifully. Next, I'm going to stamp her dress again. Just the dress, because I want to paper piece it. And I've chosen a paper from this, the Pocket Full of Poses stack by Die Cuts with a View. This is a beautiful stack. And the paper I'm going to use is this. Isn't that pretty? So again, I'll just stick some paper underneath before I stamp. And I'll just stamp up the little girl's dress. There we go. I love doing paper piecing. I think it gives such a pleasing result. Just choose an area of the paper where I want to print. I'm going to go here where it's sort of faded and scruffy. I'm choosing to use a patterned paper for this because I want her dress to look a bit interesting. I don't want it to just be a solid colour. And using paper like this, pre-printed paper, makes this job very easy. Well, it didn't really stamp too well in the middle there. I'm going to do it again. If it was just a tiny bit missing, I would probably just fill in the gaps with a Copic multi-liner or another black pen. But I think that's quite a big bit missing. Not too happy with that. But one of the good things about stamping is if it goes wrong, you can always do it again. I think I'll go just here this time where there's lots of orange. This time I'm going to make sure I push in that area that didn't stamp properly last time. Oh, just push it all down. Wait a moment just to make sure the ink's transferred. There we go, that's a much better stamp. Alright, next I'm now going to cut out my little girl's dress. Okay, so I've coloured in my little girl, I've glued her little dress on, and I've glued her little hat on. And I know I went to the trouble of colouring her little bow in her hair, but I thought the hat looked best at this angle, so that's where I've stuck it. Now I'm going to make a tag for the background. Now I've cut out a tag shape, and this is mount board. This is the sort of board you put round pictures before you put them in a picture frame. It's very sturdy, and if you follow my blog you'll know that I often make tags using mount board. And I've cut my tag out using the rather large Tim Holtz alteration stamp that's called Tag and Book Plates. This is a big Sizzix stamp, it's one of the biggest ones, and it cuts through the mount board very easily. It's this huge one over here. You don't obviously need to use a die to cut out a tag, because it's pretty simple shape. Just cut a rectangle and cut a little couple of bits off the side. As long as it's big enough for your little girl to go on, you're all right. Now I want to decorate this tag. It happens to have a black background, and I'm going to just work on that, but I'm not going to be leaving it black. I'm going to use, first of all, one of these mulberry matte papers. This is from Die Cuts with a View. This is a pretty old pack. I think I bought this back in the 90s, so I hope it's still available, but I'm sure there's similar things if not. You see, it comes in all these lovely colours. These are really, really cool. And I'm going to use one of these black ones. There's actually two blacks in this pack. There's a just plain black, but there's also this black with threads of white and grey in it. I think that's just great. What I'm really looking for here is to build up a sense of dimension on the background. I'm just going to check. That's how it looks like on the black side. Now if I lay it on the white side, it goes a bit grey. I think I'm going to stick with the black. I wasn't quite sure until I'd done it what colour I was going to go for there. And I want this to go over about the top, what, 3/4 of the die. So I'm going to use multi-medium matte. This is by Ranger, and I love using this for gluing larger pieces of paper and card down. Make sure your brush is dry before you apply this, or otherwise it goes a bit funny. And I'm just going to paint my tag. When you're gluing things, it's always useful to put the glue on the sturdier of the two surfaces. So the mulberry paper is very thin and flimsy, and it'd be quite difficult to put glue on the back of it. So instead I'm putting the glue on the nice sturdy tag. Much, much easier. It works much, much more effectively. There we go. Just make sure I've got a good covering. And I'm just going to lay my mulberry paper on. Might as well line it up at one side and save some cutting, I suppose. Just bring it up a little bit. There we go. Rub that down good and proper. Just whilst that's drying, I'm going to put the bottom part of the tag. I'm going to use this green. I really don't know what stack this is from, I'm afraid, but it is a fairly plain green. It's got a slight texture. It's not totally green. And I'm just going to cut a piece that's big enough to go on the bottom of my tag. There we go. And I want this to sort of, it's going to go on the bottom here. It's going to be like the ground, I suppose, if this is imagine this little scene. And I'm just going to cut, actually I think I'm going to tear the top. So just see how high I want it, about there. And I'm just going to put my finger in it and I'm going to tear it. And I'm tearing towards me. This will leave a white fuzzy edge. If I tore the other way, you wouldn't get this edge, and I want this edge. So there's my scruffily torn piece of paper. And I'm going to get some distress ink. I'm using peeled paint here. And I'm just going to rub the peeled paint onto that torn edge. There you go. That's a little messy, isn't it? But that'll do the job. That'll work. Okay. And I've got a distress marker here, which is also peeled paint. I'm just going to colour along there. There we go. So this is going to be the bottom of my tag. Just put the matte medium out of the way for a minute. That's better. I can see what I'm doing now. Okay, I'm going to... Okay, I've got a finger dauber now. This will make this a bit easier. I'm just going to daub along the edges of my green. I'm going very roughly, some bits long, some bits short. Up that other side. A bit more on the top. And I'm just going to get my green distress marker. Oops, I want the other side, I want the brush end. One of the good things about the distress colours is they all match. So if you've got the markers and the ink, they all go together. I'm just going to scribble on there. I want to make the edge a bit more clear. Now I'm going to take my dauber, which flicked over there, there it is. And I'm going to use a stencil. Now I made this stencil. I cut it out using my silhouette portrait. You can see it's been used quite a lot of times. It's got a few marks on it. It's swirly whirly shapes. I'm just going to lay it down on top of my background, and then using my dauber, I'm just gently daubing the peeled paint colour onto my stencil. And I'm afraid my camera ran out of memory in the middle of filming that, so I've now finished the stenciling at the bottom here, and you can see that I've got all the swirly whirlies on, and then I've just stuck it onto the bottom of my tag, and I use the matte medium to do that. Now I want to add a little bit more texture and interest to this, as well as adding my witch. I'm going to use a stencil. This is a stencil I got for on a magazine, so I'm afraid I can't tell you what the brand is, but I'm going to just use this lacy bit. And I'm going to make some coloured texture paste for this. So I'm using some just cheap metallic purple acrylic paint. So put a blob of that down. That was far more than I needed. I got a bit excited there. And I'm going to use some of this modelling paste. Just get a bit of that out. I love this stuff, it's nice and messy. Okay, I just want to add a little bit of this metallic purple. We'll see how it goes, how it mixes. Okay, we'll use more of it. I want a nice rich purple colour after all. I was more worried about the purple making it go a bit too thin, because I'm adding more liquid to it, but I think it's alright. I'm just going to sort of fold it in. That's nice, that's quite a nice purple. There, that's looking good. Okay, we'll just add a little bit more. There we are. This is fun, isn't it? Okay, so I've now got a nice smushy pile of purple. I'll do this way up so it fits on my table better. I'm going to lay the stencil along the side of my tag, hold it down as tight as I can, and I'm just going to smear this texture paste on. Just smooch it in. Just smudging it all the way in. Just to let you know, I will be running Shriek Week related tutorials and blog posts throughout this week. So do keep an eye on the Tin Teddy blog and Tumblr and Instagram. There'll be links below, all the videos and all the posts to everything else, so you can find everything you're looking for. If you want to know any of the products I'm using today, there'll be links below here on the video, and there's also going to be more details over on the Tin Teddy blog. So we'll pull that off. And what I have is a rather cool effect of lace. I'm just going to use my baby wipe to just remove some of the stuff that's sort of blobbed away. Don't worry about anything that looks wobbly when you're doing this, don't worry. I just wipe my spatula, I should be able to scrape it up. There we go. Luckily, if you're doing grungy effect things, you can get away with a lot if you make a mess. That's fine, that's absolutely fine. Okay, I'll just clean up and I'll be back with you in a few moments. There, I've cleaned up my mat and my stencil. I don't like to leave the texture paste on them till it dries, because it's really hard to get off then, so hence my nipping off and cleaning it. It will take a few moments to dry on the tag, and you don't really want to put your fingers in it because it'll spoil it. Yes, I am speaking from experience. I'm going to glue the little girl on while I'm waiting for the texture paste to dry, so I'm going to go careful. I'm using the matte medium again. Just make sure my brush is dry. I'm going to put it on the back of the doll because otherwise I won't really know where to put it. Put it on the tag. And we'll just put this on here. My apologies, by the way, if this video all seems a little wobbly and things. I'm quite new to this. I'm just getting used to it. A little nervous about it. I'm still in the getting used to it stage, so please bear with me. I'm doing my best and hopefully things will improve over time. So I'm just going to stick my little girl onto my tag, and I'm going to get the paint again, the matte medium again, and I'm just going to go over her and over the background, except for the bit where the paste is, where the texture paste is. I'm just coating her all over. What this is doing is, let's make sure I've got some under there because I'm not sure that's gluing. It makes sure she's glued down properly, but it also seals the image and provides a non-porous surface. And you'll see why I want a non-porous surface in a minute. There we go. As long as the brush is dry when you stick it in the glue and do this, it won't affect the distress marker at the bottom. If you do it with a wet brush, you'll get the distress mark will sort of bleed and go funny. So do make sure your brush is dry before you use your matte medium. There we go. We'll just turn her around and give that a wipe. So we're starting to take shape. Now that is still drying, so put that out of the way. Now I'm going to add some of these little tiny letter tiles. Whoops, Daisy, we'll just throw them all over the floor here. Little letter tiles. I wasn't sure which colour I was going to use when I first picked them up. I'm going to use the paler coloured ones. These are from the Tin Teddy letter tiles, wooden letter tiles collage sheet. You get two sizes in the pack. You get some 1-inch ones, and these are the little 1/2-inch ones. And I'm going to use a Sharpie pen. I'm just going to pick up each of the tiles with its face downwards. I'm running my, oops, this is going to be fiddly, isn't it? I'm going to run a Sharpie, just a plain black Sharpie, and I'm going to just run it round the edges of all the tiles. There's all my little letters. I often do this when I've cut anything out. You can do it as well with stamped images. So I've now got the letters Boo. I'm going to put these up here at the top, so I suppose I might as well do that while I'm playing with glue. Just put a little bit more matte medium on. Okay, and we're just going to put the letters B. Oh, heck, we've got a hair there. O and O. And I'm just going to put a little bit more matte medium on top of those letters, so they're all sealed down as well. So there's my Boo, like in the Boo. Okay, now I've got a couple of other bits I'm going to add, or I was going to add. I've got a really cute, some spiders here. These are die cut spiders. Seem to be a few of them. And these were cut from the rather old Cuttlebug die here. And I've used this for a few Halloween projects. It's rather cute. And I am thinking I might add a little spider down by her feet as a pet. Yep, I think I'll add a little pet spider. I happen to have some pet spiders myself. I've got 3 tarantulas called Marjorie, Chaco and Rusty. And I know a lot of people don't like spiders, but I can assure you they're actually really rather cute. They're not scary. Oh, drop that in the texture paste. Now I'm going to leave this to thoroughly dry, and I'll come back to you in a few minutes. If you've got a heat gun, you can dry it with a heat gun. I prefer to let it dry naturally, to be honest. So I'm just going to have a general tidy up, and I'll see you in a few seconds. And now to do the last little bit of the tag, I just want to add a little bit of dimension, a few shadows and things. I hope you don't mind me working upside down, but I sort of need to see what I'm doing. I'm going to start off, I'm going to use a Uniball Signo White gel pen. This is one of my favourite pens, and I'm just going to draw around her hat. I forgot to mention earlier, by the way, the hat is actually from the Lawn Fawn set that's called Booyah. That's where I got the little hat. So I'm just putting in the white lines. It's not showing very well, but there we go. This just makes her hat stand out a little better. Yes, it is dry. The paste is a little wet, but will do. I'm going to use a distress marker in black soot. If you can hear a funny noise in the background, by the way, that's my guinea pig. He thinks that if I come in this room, it's for his purposes. I'm just going to draw around her leg and then smudge the distress marker. There we go. I'll do the same on the other side. Because I put the matte medium on, I've got a semi-permeable surface and it lets me smudge them more. Just go in the middle. There we go. That just makes her legs stand out a little bit more. Next I'm going to use the distress marker in Spiced Marmalade, and I'm just going to use this, whoops, I've got the wrong end again, to put a little bit of shade in on her dress. I'm doing the same thing, I'm just putting the colour on and then smudging it a bit. There we go. It's just added a little bit of shade, and you perhaps can't really see much difference on YouTube. I sometimes use a pit marker, my apologies, a pit marker from Faber-Castell. I have a black one here, but I'm going to actually swap over and use my brown one. That's my brown one. It's actually called Caput Mortem, apparently. And I'm going to use that to add a little bit more shadow in. Again, this is going to work like the distress marker did, in that it doesn't really sort of sink in. It's going to just sit on the surface and let me smudge it. And it just adds a little bit of shade in around it. Yeah, that works a little bit better than the distress marker. Yeah, I'm quite liking that. Now, I often do this when I'm making mixed media projects. I think it just makes things look as though they belong. They don't look quite like they're so much like they're floating. There we are. Put one a bit round the spider as well. Yep, I quite like that. It's sort of dirtying it up as well. There we are. That's quite nice. A bit more underneath the spider. I think we're pretty much done there for the main decoration. For the tag at the top, I've cut this. It's just garden twine. This is normal gardener's thread that you'd use for tying plants up. I got it cheap from my local supermarket, but it had it in nice Halloween colours. I bought this back in the springtime and I thought, oh, Halloween. So I'm just going to thread that through the hole in the top, and there I have my finished tag. Now, I did smudge the texture paste there, and I could stick something on it like a little ribbon or something, but to be honest, I'm okay with that. I'm just going to trim the tags. I like to leave my threads long on my tags, but if you prefer yours shorter. And there we have the first project for this year's Shriek Week. So do check out the Tin Teddy blog for more details, and I'll see you soon. Bye.